So,
All right. Well, welcome guys. Excited to be here with you today. This is a training. I'm just looking at who's here right now. Like I want to phrase this in a way that's going to be beneficial to you in the time that we're spending here. I know Eric, I know Janie, I know Will and Vero. Lynn, I'm not sure I've met you before. But I'll kind of like position this in a way that is hopefully good for you guys. So let me pull up my screen. Maybe. All right. So this training came about from a live event that we did in Bozeman, and it was really just trying to help these agents that were in the room. And the room was comprised of a couple hundred agents, mainly like agents that do anywhere from like a couple deals a year to maybe like a maximum of like 15, 20 deals a year, with the vast majority of them being like somewhere in the middle of that. And I think this is a training that we should all have like in our tool belt. Like, how do we approach the business? And really, like, how do we approach it from our own story so that we're speaking from, something that's real and tangible. But when I look at this, like, I can talk to anybody. I don't care where they are in their journey, whether they're a top producer, team leader, broker owner, or they're an agent that's about to get licensed. And I feel like these are principles that must be in place in their business regardless. And I'll challenge somebody who's a top producer to really go through these 10 different steps and assess where they are on it, because wherever you are, like we can all agree, right? There's another level. Like whether you're killing it and you're having the best year ever, there's probably still some pain points in that success where you're like, man, if I could just do what I'm doing now, but it could look or feel like this, then I'd be the next level. So for me, it's like, I started out as a single agent. I built my own real estate company. I came over to EXP. I built a revenue share organization. And these were like big different chapters in my story. But these pillars that I'm going to share with you today, these pillars were always the catalyst to get me to the next level, if that makes sense. So I'm always teaching agents like you got to start with a written income goal. And for some of us, what got us to where we are is like the thing that we're not doing that's keeping us from going to where we should be going. So like what's your clear written goal, and like how do we incorporate, today's tools and resources to help us do that? And like you can just put into chat GPT, put in a prompt like, hey, I want to make this much money and this is my average per sale. Like, how do I get there? Or I want to make this much money and I want X amount of percent to come from my real estate business and another percent to come from this other opportunity, whether that's revenue share or real estate investing. Like you can break it up any way you want, but you've got to have a clear written goal or you're not going to get there. And this gives you like your overall roadmap. And then whatever business you're in, whether you're a team leader or you're a single agent or you're, an investor, you've got to have leads coming in. And when you understand your leads and what it is that you're trying to do, you can understand different terminology that's going to help you get there. So a prompt for this might be given a monthly lead target of 40 and a conversion rate of 20%, how many phone calls, open house interactions, and follow-ups do I need to reach weekly? And knowing these numbers and knowing what your pillars are vitally important. If you're doing paid lead gen on social media to try to find real estate buyers, you might need 650 to get one person that's going to do business with you in the next 90 days. So like you have to understand, but you'll never know what your numbers are if you don't start tracking it. So setting a monthly lead target, calculating your conversion rate, planning your weekly activities. If the vast majority of your business is coming from, let's say you're a Zillow Flex partner right now, a 20% conversion benchmark is probably going to work for you. But if you're doing paid Google AdWord lead gen to a platform like Commission Inc. or Boomtown, 20% is not going to work because it's going to be closer to one half of 1%. So these are just important things. And like when I'm talking to an agent, if I get on a phone with an agent and they're trying to improve their business and their life through their business, I'm asking them questions like, how many leads did you get last month? And if they don't know, great. Like here's a good starting point. And that's why I think we should all have our own version of this presentation not only to serve ourselves, but like also to serve the agents that are in our network. And talking to you specifically on this call, like I know you guys have networks of agents. The next thing in the kind of moving down the pipeline would be like, what is your buyer and seller appointment focus? Like these are your weekly anchors. Like how many appointments did you get? And if you're like, hey, I'm not even tracking that, or I kind of take appointments as they fall in my lap, maybe you go into AI and you put in something like this. I want 8 buyer presentations and 4 seller consultations per month. What daily habits or reminders should I put in my calendar to consistently hit that appointment level? And like, I just think it's fascinating, like what these results are giving us and like the clarity of thought that you can get by using prompts because it's going to give you something. And what it's also going to give you at the end of that something is another potential prompt that you can go down. And you can start to create and build these filters for you personally in a short period of time. And you can almost use ChatGPT as like a digital accountability partner and start to get these goals focused and start to think about where you need to be. Because let's just oversimplify it for a second. If you're not where you want to be, I guarantee you don't have enough appointments. And that's the reason that you're not where you want to be. And if you don't have enough appointments, guess what? You don't have enough leads. So it just starts to stack one thing on top of the other. But in order to start to generate the content and what you need, you got to start to time block and you got to respect these time blocks and treat them like appointments. It's so easy to get spreadsheet rich in this business and in any business really. It's like, man, it's just like this is what it could look like. But if we don't time block the critical activities, and when I time block, I like to use the MIT lead response study because the MIT lead response study tells me which times are going to be the most effective. So if I'm time blocking activity that's critical to my business, let's look at it a level deeper and say, which hours of the day could I be the most effective with that time to get the most juice from the squeeze? So I would upload the lead response study to my chat GPT and I'd say, based on this information, help me set up, time blocking for the week. And I can only, afford to spend 6 hours in these activities this week. Help me pick 4 different sessions based on this study that are going to give me the most amount of potential to reach these people and start to create these time blocks. And then once you set that time block, nothing comes in the way of it. Like nothing, like your laundry, the dog's whining that wants to go for a walk. Your wife asked you if you went to the grocery store. Like none of this stuff matters. You've got to treat it like an appointment. And then this is something that I learned early on because as I started to get busy as a single agent, things started to become chaotic very quickly. And I had to make a decision that I was going to have a CRM discipline, that I was going to have a habit of discipline when it came to my CRM. And it did a lot of things for me. So not only did it help keep me from business falling through the cracks, and for a lot of agents, that's, a lot. And you're trying to juggle everything and you're trying to keep everything in your head all the time. And you've heard the term 24/7 agent. Well, part of the reason that an agent's a 24/7 agent is because they can't turn off because everything is like up here for them. But if you start to have CRM discipline, you can start to work your business like a business and you can start to set tasks and reminders and know that, hey, I'm not going to let this lead fall through the crack because I just touched them in this meaningful way. And I'm going to set the task to do the next thing right now so that I don't like let them fall through the crack. And I used to just go in and just complete all my tasks. And some days I'd be at the office late, but I knew when I left the office that I had my arms around my whole business. And there's no way I could have continued to grow and scale had I not developed that CRM discipline. And I think a lot of us have, maybe had CRM discipline at one time or another, and we've fallen off. The next thing is just having a structured lead qualification plan. So like what's your initial qualification contact look like? What's your consultation meeting look like? And guys, do the same thing every time. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't treat everybody like they're a one-off because then you never really get to a point where you like know what the systems are that support your business or what the numbers are that you can reverse engineer because everything is a variable because you do it differently every time. Have a proven buyer and seller journey that you take people through. This will create stories that you can share. You'll be able to story sell people because you'll be like, oh, you know what you're asking and what your needs are and what you're trying to accomplish is just like so and so. And let me tell you about that journey that we took them on and how we were able to help them get from this problem to this solution. And it'll just become repetitive for you. And then you've got to have a written marketing plan. So I don't care what type of marketing you're doing, you've got to have a plan for it. UVP, Melissa, is unique value proposition. So, like, how do you articulate your unique value proposition? So, what are the things that you're doing that are specific to you? What is that UVP? So, like, an example might be my unique value proposition is I'll sell your home in X amount of days or I'll pay you X amount of cash. And there's like a whole program around that. It's just like a riff off the guaranteed sale program. So like the guaranteed sale program is, you know, uh, cash offer on your home within 24 hours. And you'll see people running billboards for that in most major markets because it works. That's a unique value proposition. That's a reason for you to do business with me over all my competitors. Even if your competitors are doing that as well, it's how do you communicate your unique value proposition in a way that communicates with that prospect and helps solve whatever the problem challenge is that they have with a solution that you're offering. So you can think about this in any kind of granular way, and it's a good question because it's something that I think deserves more thought than most agents give it. Is like, who's your avatar? Who are you serving? And when we get into like the written marketing plan, like you should be communicating your unique value proposition and who you're serving in all of these different mediums, whatever they're going to be. So if you're in Instagram, like what are you known for? What is it that you're trying to communicate? If you're trying to communicate that you're a real estate agent that can help anybody and everybody, good luck with that. That's like you versus Zillow because that's Zillow's market too, is like anybody and everybody who wants to, buy a home. So you've got to niche down more than that. And when you niche down and you have a specific avatar in mind, what you're able to then do is ask yourself questions like, what is the challenge that my avatar has? And maybe your avatar is, single mothers who are trying to get into a home while, managing kids and a job and like all this stuff, and they just don't have the time. When you can niche down and speak to that, now you can start to craft a UVP that's specific to helping them. And maybe part of your UVP is like, hey, I've got this relationship with this, daycare provider, and I offer free daycare to my real estate clients while we're out looking at homes. And we can drop them off, and it's a safe, comfortable environment, and the kids will be well taken care of. And then we can focus on what might be your single biggest investment and your pathway to sanity moving forward. And all your marketing speaks around that, and it just becomes like a whole thing. You can do this with anything, but you can never get to that level of you're speaking to the challenges in their head and on their heart. You can't do that if you don't niche down. And your marketing plan is all part of that. And maybe your marketing plan is I serve these specific people in this specific area or school district. So everything you talk about is about the success stories that you have within that area. You're on the board of education, the PTA at that school, everything that's going on in that neighborhood. Here's the three best neighborhoods within that school district, and everything is kind of geared towards that. That's going to help you be more successful. And then you can just get into ChatGPT and like specifically ask for prompts. And like, if I'm going after a specific target, like I'm going after a neighborhood, hey, help me generate a review from somebody that I just closed in this neighborhood, articulating why like this neighborhood was important to them and like asking them and like also give them examples like that they could use in their review that would help me get a more targeted review that I'm looking for, testimonial I'm looking for. You know, I didn't learn the discipline of getting reviews and testimonials until I had my own real estate company. So like I had already built a team, was a top producer, then had my own company before I even started this. Had I started this in day one early on, like this would have allowed me to scale so much faster because let's all just call it what it is. Like you can get business the hard way, which is lead generation and converting strangers into clients, or you can get business the easy way, which is a raving fan client telling their friend to use you. Like, which would you rather have if I gave you two options? A cold lead that doesn't know you, doesn't know if they like you, doesn't know if they trust you, that you've got to convert, or somebody that comes off of a glowing review who's not even interviewing anybody else who's predispositioned to working with you. That's the power of reviews and testimonials and why they're so important. And we've got to like start to get into that mentality. So these are just things that you can look at and then putting it all together in one dashboard. At EXP, we have a technology called Sisu. It's amazing. It allows you to create a dashboard so you can look at your business. You could literally create KPIs around all these things and move your business forward. You could have a visual snapshot of where you're at. I just think that when an agent has these 10 things working in their business, that's not an agent that you're likely to hear from very often, meaning they don't have a lot of problems in their business, or at least the problems they have are manageable when all of these things are working. And what I find is when I have an agent who has a lot of challenges or struggle right now, and I look at their business across these 10 things, they're failing the test. What I mean by that is at least four or more of those things are non-existent or not in place in their business, and therefore their score is a 6 out of 10 or less, and they're failing in their business. So it's just like an easy thing to see and do, and like you've got to ask yourself, where am I at? Why am I there? What am I doing about it? And yeah, I've just found this to be very clarifying in my conversations. Um, so I want to stop sharing and just kind of open it up to you guys. Like, let me see what questions you have. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't
You
see
guys are
any.
just, you guys are just showing up because like you're leaders in your own right, at least the ones of you that I know. And so like as a leader, like I would just have my version of this presentation because I feel like to the point where I shared in the presentation about like have a process, have a journey that you take people on so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. If you're a leader, you're having these conversations with your agents and your network and on your team around you anyway. So like have a way for them to like see why it is that they're not succeeding and have your 10 principal success pillars so that you can talk to them about it and find out are they failing or not. I think I cut somebody off. Somebody was going to say something.
I think that was Stacy. Stacy, was that you?
I don't think so.
Oh,
But John, I love what you were saying about everybody should kind of have this version of a presentation because I think also number one, it reminds us of what we can offer to clients, but sometimes too, I know as an agent, we forget all the things that we offer and do and help clients. And sometimes they'll ask us a question like, well, how are you different than someone else? And your brain starts like going and you're trying to think of something and you say something weird like, well, I put it on MLS. I know we wouldn't say that, but it's like that's all your brain gave you. So when you have this available to you and you can put it on your phone and things like that, you're able to like reference it quickly. Sometimes for those times when you need a little more confidence stepping into a situation or question, networking event, whatever it might be. So I like that idea that you said of having it available for you.
Have you guys like ever heard the notion that, like, let's just isolate it for a second to like we have a buyer presentation and you should have a buyer presentation that's like a full-blown buyer presentation, a buyer presentation that's like a Starbucks version where you can like more casually talk about it and maybe half the time. And then you should have your elevator pitch of that presentation. Like why would somebody even want to sit down with you for a buyer presentation? So we have these different versions of the same thing, if that makes sense, so that we can deliver the right size presentation for the audience. Like all I did today was give you guys just a very high level overview of like something that I think is important that we should all have our own version of. And I have every version of this presentation. So like I have this version like literally in a 30-minute presentation on each one of them. So like in 15 minutes, I can give you like the highlight overview presentation of what it is and how I approach real estate and what I think everybody needs to have in place. And these are like those 10 things in like simple text. But I also have like each one of those broken down into an entire presentation with like supporting like how I approach it. And that's what I'm talking about is like we're all taking somebody on a journey, whether we're taking a buyer on a journey to buy a house, a seller on a journey to sell a house, an agent on a journey to grow their business. And like you can have every version of that. So I think there's probably like, depending on how we approach this business, if we're a single agent, then we need to have like a really good buyer presentation and a really good seller presentation in like multiple formats. If we're a single agent looking to grow a team, now we've got to add another presentation, which is a recruiting presentation in those three, in a minimum of three formats. If we're going to grow an organization at EXP revenue share, we need another couple presentations on like what is our value proposition. But like you don't need a lot. And I would argue that you can build this stuff out so quickly right now with the help of all these tools. Like I was asking Stacy like, 20 minutes ago, what am I going to talk about? And then I remembered, oh, we had already like decided that this is going to talk about. And like when you have all this stuff, it's just like, okay, well, we can talk about anything we need to talk about because we've talked about it enough times and it's part of who we are, which is why if any of you were part of Fast Attract or you got to participate in that, show of hands, anybody part of that on here? Okay, so a few of us, they talked a lot about authenticity and like actually coming from like where you are, like what's important to you. Me and Janie can agree on a lot of things, but our businesses were built differently and look differently. She went the luxury route, I went the like meat and potatoes route. And one is not wrong or right. It was just our journeys were different. So if Janie were to be her authentic self, her 10 things might look slightly different than mine. They might sound different than mine, but they would all get you to the same place because I believe she could help you get from where you are to where you want to be. She would just have her own sauce to get you there. I'm going to get you from where you are to where you want to be, but it's going to be layered with my experience and my journey, if that makes sense. And it's going to sound like me. Where we go wrong is we try to take somebody else's template of a journey and make it our own. That's why I think these presentations are so important and powerful. And when we get on a collaborative call, it's like, what is it that we're going to learn today that's going to move our business forward? And, we could have spent 20, 30 minutes talking about one new piece of AI tech that helps us in one niche way. Today's presentation just happened to be a general overview of these 10 steps. But really, when I looked at who was on the call, I wanted to turn it around to you guys and be like, here's what I think is important that could help your business is we've got to have these types of presentations at the ready in the formats that are going to serve our audience in the setting that they're in. Make sense? A lot of it can just be perspective. I was on a call with my health coach yesterday and I just needed some perspective. I'm like really winning right now in my health journey, but even when we're really winning, we can have like setbacks and like mental roadblocks and I hit one of those this past week. My father-in-law was in town. Um it's just like his lifestyle is very incongruent with my lifestyle. So like having somebody like that in your home for an extended period of time and like you're trying to entertain them and they just continue on living the way they live, which is like a stark contrast to the way you live, it creates tension. And I was just like feeling the pressure of that and like the journey that I'm on. And my health coach brought me some perspective. He told me on a call yesterday, he said, John, he said, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, oh man, I've been like dialed in for the last 7 months. And he's like, all right. He's like, well, aside from the last 7 months, how long were you the other way? And I was like, I had to think about it. And I was like, well, I kind of lived the other way 25 years. Like, not a lot's changed in the last 25 years. And he's like, so you changed 7 months ago, but you were the other way for 25 years. And now you're looking at everybody else through the filter of your last 7 months, which is brand new. And he's like, and you're wondering why they're the 25 years ago. And he's like, dude, this guy's probably been living that way for 50 years. And I'm like, yeah, he's probably has been. And he's like, you just gotta, it was just like a perspective that I needed. So like, how do we turn that to real estate? We learn something, we come to EXP and, I've been with EXP for 5 years and I've been in this business for 25 years. So we come to EXP and we forget so quickly because we're on a new journey, what it's like to be on the journey that we spent the most of our time in our career with. And we start to disassociate and lose the perspective of what it's like to be an agent who's just trying to do another deal. And I think that's true for myself. I'm guilty of that. But getting a healthy dose of perspective is often an important thing that can help us where we are right now in the present. And getting around people that can give us that is good. And I think these calls are just another opportunity for that.
I have a question, John, if you mind.
Yeah.
So you said create this presentation and kind of lace it with your own experience. Do you ever come across where the person you're presenting to, there's just a lot of friction there because the way that I do things may not necessarily be how they want to run their business?
Yeah. And that's probably not somebody that you're going to help. Just being transparent. Like, again, if we're trying to be everything to everybody, now we're competing with Zillow. If you try to help everybody that comes into your fold and you water your message down to not be um offensive is not the right word, but to not alienate them, your message is probably going to be very lukewarm and it's not going to serve everybody. It's like, I think about what would be a good example. Um, think about Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone and Dave Ramsey are like very, very different people. If you tried to find the through line between Grant Cardone and Dave Ramsey, there's one there. There's a through line between every opposing personality or force. But if you tried to find the through line and then you said, okay, here's the through line between these two guys, this is going to bring in Grant's people and Dave's people. What you would find is it would bring in no people. The reason that those guys have been successful is because they've found a message and they've created a voice around that message and it's like polarizing and it repels some people and it brings other people tight to them. So what I would try to do is figure out what's your special sauce, Eric? What's your journey been and who do you feel like you connect with the best? And if you get off a call and you're like, man, that call went really good, journal about why you might think that. Like have a journal entry that's like, these are my best calls. And then why was it a good call? What were their challenges? How were you able to help them? What were the things that they grasped onto and you felt like immediate connection and you felt like the call moved forward? And I think you'll find a through line in that and you'll start to have your own voice. And then you'll be able to use that as a refining of your avatar to go deeper on that. One of my good buddies, Nick, who I met when I moved to Bozeman, he's got like this amazing process that he takes people through that takes like a lot of time, work, and effort, but it's so rewarding where he like hones in on who your avatar is that you want to help and can help. And he has you answer all these questions about, well, there's your avatar and then there's like four different stages to your avatar. So there's like the first stage where they don't even know that they have a problem or that there's a solution to their problem. Then there's like the next stage where they know they have a problem, but they don't know there's a solution. And then there's like the next stage where they know there's a problem and they know there's a solution. And then there's like the final stage where they know there's a problem and they know that you're the solution. And we have to take people like through that journey. And sometimes when they're at the stage where they don't know there's a problem and they don't know there's a solution, they're your avatar still, but they're at that stage. You have to ask them questions to help them see for themselves that there is a problem and help them see for themselves that there is a potential solution. So now you're getting into like the psychographic of that person and like, what do these people tell themselves is true at this stage? Well, maybe I'm an agent and I'm having the best year of my career, but I'm like literally burning the candle at both ends. And you try to tell somebody that they can triple their business, it like explodes their mind. They're like, no, I don't even know if I want that. Like I can't do 3x of what I'm doing now because that's the limiting belief they have is that to get 3 times more, I have to do 3 times more because they haven't been aware that there's a solution or a system that could help them do that in less time and effort. So these are like the nuances that you've got to get into with your messaging and your marketing to be able to help people. But you'll never get into those nuances if your avatar is anybody and everybody. So like who are you committed to serving? And like you don't have to necessarily serve that person forever. The person that you serve right now, Eric, that you're confident that you can take them through a framework that can help take them from here to there, and you can help articulate that and illustrate to them in a way that's believable and exciting that they want to follow in your footsteps on that journey. Well, you might do that a few times, and then you might become through the process somebody who's capable of taking somebody on an entirely different, better journey. You see what I'm saying? Like these things stack. So it's like it's not about becoming the person that's it's not about becoming a 7-figure earner. It's about who will you have to become a 7-figure earner. And then once you're a 7-figure earner who's become the person, then you can go out and become an 8-figure earner. But you're not likely to become an 8-figure earner if you've never become the person that is required to be a 7-figure earner, if that makes sense. So I would just get super clear about who you are and who you're not. So like part of the exercise that my buddy Nick takes you through is like, who are the clients that you work with that literally zap the energy out of you? Okay, we're not going to work with those clients anymore. And when we see these things pop up, these characteristics, we're going to know that that's a client that's going to suck our energy out. And we want to avoid those people so that we can feed into the people that we want to put our time and energy into that give us energy back.
No, that's super helpful. I definitely think I've struggled in the past of like trying to serve everybody. And so just really narrowing in on a select group. I think that's going to be super helpful.
For sure, man. For sure. Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? What you got? Challenges, mental roadblocks, positive focus, anything you want to share? Oh, couple minutes of open time here.
I was just gonna add, John, regarding who you don't want to serve. Agents can feel in a time where it's feeling lean, they can feel a feeling of scarcity or lack. And so they feel desperate to whatever degree to work with any buyer or seller that comes their way. Instead of realizing, like you said, there's people that we shouldn't be working with. There's buyers we shouldn't be working with. There's sellers we shouldn't be working with, that if we take them on, that the time suck, the money suck, the bandwidth suck, the emotional suck of working with them can be catastrophic, especially with sellers where you're stuck with them 6, 9, 12 months with unrealistic expectations, or, unwilling to accept the market conditions where they are. And the thing that beats that out is just growing a bigger funnel. So
Hmm.
you have the mindset that I'm picking them just as much as they're picking me. And so many agents have such a shallow funnel or a narrow funnel that they feel like they have to take, they have this whole beggars can't be choosers mentality. And in a slowing market, I was in Miami during the Great Recession, which is probably one of the worst. Unrealistic sellers were the death of the average agent because there was no shortage of listings, but the gold was finding the listings that were actually going to sell. So I would just encourage anybody, if you're in a shifting market, don't feel like you have to take every opportunity that comes your way, even if they want to work with you, if you don't feel they're realistic and motivated and you know, grounded in reality. Um, that it's just so bad for agents, you know.
And this is, I'm going to use what you just said because I totally agree with you. However, I would approach it from a different angle, and I'm going to use this as an illustration to share. Like, Janie would be able to help somebody undoubtedly, and her help would look and sound different than my help. If an agent came to me, my approach to that scenario would be like, yeah, you're a beggar right now. And because you're in this situation, you're going to be forced to do things that you don't want to do, which is serve this seller or this buyer that's going to be super annoying. And sometimes pain is the best motivator. So here's my 10 things, and here's what I want you to do. Every minute that you're with that buyer that's running you around and treating you like a rag doll, I want you to remember that you're 6 to 9 weeks away from disciplined time blocks to never work with that person again. But right now you're in a situation and right now you need that buyer commission. So I want you to feel and embrace the pain so that you never have to go back to working with someone like that again. But today you need to because you're in this situation. But we're going to take all these other things that I'm teaching you and we're going to do the hard work to put them in place and we're going to remember this specific name of this person that you want to grab by the throat so that you can use that as pain to adhere to the discipline to get yourself away from that situation and never go back there again. Just that, like, we're both serving them in a way that feels true to us. Janie would be like, I'm going to show you how to get luxury clients that are going to, spoon over you and give you referrals, and we're just not going to work with that person. Whereas, like, because my journey was working with people that I didn't ever want to have to work again, I did it a little differently. And I just used the pain to never go back there again. And to this day, I still operate a lot out of fear more than reward. It's not right or wrong. Like I could sit down with two different psychologists and one could say, you should be doing it this way, and one could say you should be doing it that way, and they'd be polar opposite. I just know myself well enough, and I'm honest with myself to know that a lot of things that I do out of fear of regression more than reward benefit, if that makes sense. Well, cool, guys. Well, enjoyed spending some time with you here today. If you need anything, just reach out. We're always excited to hear from you and help you. Janie, is there any announcements coming up on luxury that we need to know about?
So I have on Tuesday of next week, I'll be giving an open to anybody training on basically what scripts, dialogues, mindsets, etc., should you have in navigating a shifting market like we're having right now. And that's on EXP's luxury YouTube channel. So it's open to
Nice.
anybody, so you can share that with whomever. And then the Thursday of next week, I'm doing a training on luxury agent attraction. So if anybody's interested in that, just shoot me a DM or something and I'll add you to I do that once a month.
Awesome.
It's not next, it's the following one, but just shoot me if you want to be on the list to be notified of when that is.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yep.
Stacy, anything from you? Any updates that we need to be aware of? You're on mute.
Duh, sorry. I said nothing that I can think of, but This training was awesome. I thought you did such a good job. And if you guys get the chance to attend Janie's trainings, do 100% make time and do that.
You don't want to miss out on that next luxury opportunity.
Yeah, and they're open to anybody, not just anybody with any XP. So if you have, and it's not an EXP pitch, it's just a training. So if you
Right.
have anybody you're trying to expose to EXP, that's the whole purpose of it.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.